everybody, and welcome to John Talks Indian Cinema. I am your host, the Indian Cine-MANIAC, and again, I want to welcome you 1,960 fellow maniacs who have subscribed to my channel. Now, as of this recording, that's the number. By the time I post it, maybe I'll hit 2,000. What do you think? Help me out, will you? Throw out a good vibe, huh? You know what you can do? If you haven't already, subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button, but more importantly, share. That's how I'm going to get to 2,000. Now, some of you have thrown out 20,000. Would I love 20,000? Of course I would. But slow and steady, slow and steady. That's what I'm trying to do. So I appreciate it so much. I really do. So here's the film that I am going to review today. This was not recommended by anybody. It showed up on my queue, and although Cooley Singh did want me to do a trailer reaction to this film, and I can't remember if I did it or not. Cooley will tell me if I did. I don't know if I did or not, but I saw the second one. I have not seen the first one, and I really liked the second one with Arshad Warsi. It was the first time I saw him as not like a goofy sidekick role. So I really did like it. And this was directed by Subhash Kapoor, who also directed the first and the second one. It stars Akshay Kumar, big fan of his, Baby, OMG, Good News, amongst, I don't know, 20 others. Arshad Warsi, who was in one of my favorite films, Munna by MBBS, The Bastards of Bollywood he was just in, and Jolly LLB 2, obviously. Saurabh Shukla, who is funny in this film as the judge. Very funny character. He was also in PK, and he was a pretty nasty guy in Raid. And I'm mentioning a lot of the cast because I really liked everybody in this film, the cast. Gajraj Rao, who was in Bad Hi Ho, Bola, and No Smoking. He was the bad guy, and he was smarmy, weaselly, evil. Huma Kreshi, who was in Gangs of Wasseypur and Malik. Armita Rao, who was in Main Hoon Na. Seema Biswas, who I didn't even know who it was till I did a little research on the film, and she was the lead in The Bandit Queen. I couldn't believe it. And I've also seen her in The Family Man, but I didn't make that connection either. And finally, Ram Kapoor, who was also in Udaan. And this film is loosely based on a 2011 event in the Bada Parsal case, where villagers clashed with police after a 4-month sit-in Greater Noida, and because their farmland was acquired by Yamuna Expressway for low compensation, which is basically what this whole film is about. So let's get to the story. The story is about a village that is on very valuable land. They're building a development on this land. And the evil corporation is buying up all the land for low money. And there's one particular villager at the beginning who has to take out a loan. And then when he can't pay the loan back after a year, they confiscate the land. And his wife tries to help him during the court, and the court ends up throwing her out because she's a woman and she shouldn't speak. Well, so they're going to lose the land. And what the guy does, it's a very sad scene. He leaves a necklace or something on his wife, puts his turban on, grabs his water, early in the morning, walks out, dives in a body of water, and gets pulled down and drowns. Suicide. Now they flash forward, and I think it was it 7 years? No, all it says is Delhi a few years later. So now you're introduced to the two Jollies. Now this is, rather than say Jolly 1 and Jolly 2, because they're both called Jolly, right? One is Jolly Mishra, one is Jolly Tyagi. I'm going to call them by their actor names, Akshay and Warsi. That's how I'm going to refer to them so we don't get confused. But you're introduced to Akshay, there's a court case going on, and it's a groom, not yeah, suing a bride who's actually a male, but the groom didn't know it. So the family's going after him, thinking they just want his money. So he needs a lawyer. The lawyer hasn't shown up yet. All of a sudden, Akshay sticks his head through a window and says, "I'm his lawyer. I couldn't get in because security's keeping me out." So he climbs through the window. He ends up winning the case. And what's funny about it is they go into the bathroom, and there's him and the bride at a urinal peeing. Now the bride turns around, pulls the wig off, pulls the dress off, and it's all a scam. They're scamming the groom. He's not really trans. He's just trying to scam, and Akshay's aware of it. Okay, so what ends up happening was that was Warsi's case. So he stole the case from Warsi because they're both named Jolly. Okay, so now this is a back and forth with this. They start screwing each other, giving him clients who can't pay, that kind of thing. Well, the widow of the original farmer who killed himself, and she was very she was very interesting in this because she did not say a lot. And what she would do is she would wait outside each of the lawyer, not really say anything, with two goats. And it's a back and forth between both Jollies because one doesn't want to help her, then the other doesn't want to help her. But then they hear the story of what happened. Now, while this is going on, you get introduced to the evil corporation, which I think was the Imperial something. I think that's, yeah, the project is Bikaner to Boston. Okay, Massachusetts. That's where I reside, Bikaner to Boston. Um, and I want to get the name of the because it sounds so evil too. It really does sound evil. Oh, it's something Imperial, the Imperial something group. Um, so he oh yeah, Chairman Imperial Group. It's a development company. That's what it is, the Imperial Group. So somehow they end up Akshay ends up on the side of the Imperial Group, Warsi on the 40 farmers who want to renege on the deal because they were kind of screwed. Akshay wins the case. Now the evil leader of the Imperial Group, and that's Katan, wants to hire him. And he's a little weasel. He's got this little gray hair, these little specks, and he comes across as so reasonable. But when pushed, he's evil. Because there's a scene where they want to say that the farmer who committed suicide at the beginning, someone says, well, it's because he was having an affair with the daughter-in-law. That's what they're going to say. And he says, never disrespect a woman. Well, he ends up bringing a check for 10 lakhs. I think it was 10 lakhs to the widow. And she tore it up in front of him and said, this isn't about money. This is about the land. Now he's ticked off. He's talking to a reporter and says, yeah, the rumor is he was having an affair with his daughter-in-law. Well, the daughter-in-law ends up killing herself. And you find that out in a flashback. So this guy's evil. So he gets offered a big job with this company, but now he hears the story from the widow, Akshay. And not because of those circumstances, they're going to work together on this case. Now, the first half of the movie, it's very light in tone. It's not overly broad humor like you see in a lot of Bollywood films. It wasn't like that. But it had a much lighter tone. And where it took a U-turn was there's a scene where they give the village 24 hours to evacuate because they have to start building this big project. So the cops, a huge slew of cops, show up at the village. And Akshay and Warsi are there, and they're on a megaphone saying, don't be violent. They want to provoke you. Don't do it. Be peaceful. Well, then you see a sniper rifle, right? And they're talking to some bureaucrats that are saying, do it, do it. And they kind of do a misdirect. The scope's on Warsi. All of a sudden, the scope moves, and it's a government official on their side who they shoot to start a riot. They want people to think the villagers did this. And that scene was incredible. You know, it's a pretty lightweight movie. It is, even though the subject matter can be can be dark. But that scene and the aftermath of that scene was dark, and it was pretty emotional too. Because what happens, Akshay sees the sniper and goes after him. So he's away from it. But you see bits and pieces of what's going on back in the village. They're shooting them, they're beating them up. You know, a lot of stuff's going on. Well, he chases the sniper who ends up in a vehicle, and Akshay's running after him while they end up shooting him. They end up killing him. So he's no good. He can't be a witness. Akshay runs back, and you see the aftermath of this riot and all kinds of bodies all over the place. Warsi's on the side, injured. They rush him to the hospital. Um, so it was awful. And then they go to the hospital, and he's got blood all. Akshay's got blood all over him, and he's sitting there with the widow, who's got an IV bag, and all of a sudden he just starts breaking down, and he starts crying, looking at all the carnage in the hospital, and it's a pretty powerful scene. And then they fade to black. Let me see here. Yeah, I wrote that down. I want to make sure I get that right. Judges your lines to impress, surprise the witness, Warsi gets shot, wounded. Yeah, they fade to black, and then the next scene. Well, no, I'm sorry. That's an earlier scene. So now they've got the righteous cause, right? So now they're going to fight. Well, the Imperial Group brings in this big shot lawyer, Vikram, played by Ram Kapoor, who was very good in this. He wasn't like a mustache twirling villain. He wasn't like that. He's just a good tough lawyer. And now they go to court in front of the funny judge, who a side plot is he's on a dating app, and he's trying to make the moves on a female police officer, and those are funny scenes. In fact, the courtroom is being live streamed, and he calls her and says, "Watch it. I'm going to be on," and he wants his good side too. So now the court case happens, and in a movie like this, you know exactly what's going to happen. There's no big surprises here. And I will say that one of the things in the plot that was pretty ridiculous in my eyes was they use surprise witnesses, right? Because he's kind of losing the case. But then Akshay makes his closing statement, and it's really good. He undermines a couple of a witness. Well, then he says, "I got two more witnesses, one more witness I want to bring." And there's a big, who is it? Who's it going to be? And the evil Catan guy starts mouthing off to the judge. So now the judge isn't going to take it anymore. He goes off on him. So the surprise witness was the government official that was shot by the Imperial Group, who's hanging on a thread, and they bring him in a hospital bed with an IV, and he's the witness. Of course, I find that to be completely, utterly unbelievable. But so Akshay starts asking him questions. He admits to everything. Now, at this point, Warsi's also there. Now, he was injured, so he's hurt, right? But he's going to give the closing summation. And I will say that the three actors who played the lawyers, they each have times to shine with their monologues making their case. And I thought they were all good in that. I really did. But the verdict is no surprise, right? They win the case, obviously. And then it's really cool the way they do it, too, because, and this is the first really show of emotion that the widow had, Seema. When the whole thing's done and they win, she's sitting there with her goat, and she just starts bawling her eyes out. And it goes on for a good 2 minutes, just over and over, just crying. It's finally over after all these years. They fade to black, and then the next scene is them ripping down the Beacon to Boston, Bikaner to Boston big billboard. They tear it down, and they, Akshay and Warsi are there, and they're talking about soldiers and farmers, and it's interesting because the last line in the film, because this is really about the importance of farmers, because they were talking about you could do other jobs and make more money, And they were saying farming's important. We need the food. You know, when we didn't have food, you begged the farmers. Now that you got the food, you want the farmers to do something else. The last line in the film: "When you eat today, thank a farmer." Um, so listen, as far as the story goes, it was a two because you've seen, again, if you've seen most court dramas, this is what they're like, right? In fact, the other Jollies were like this. You know what the outcome's going to be. It's not the outcome that you care about, and there's very little. You don't. Now I know Indian justice is different, but the reality is they called two witnesses in this court case, and they're doing closing arguments, right? That's not how it works usually. There's more involved, but that's okay. That's fine. But that's why I give the story a two. Now, the performances I really liked in the film. I liked all of them. I thought everyone was good. Now, the wives in this, who are from the other films also, they were okay. They really didn't have much to do. But if you look at the main characters, the three lawyers, the evil imperial guy, the widow, I thought everyone was really good, and I gave the performances a four. Very likable. Funny when they needed to be. Like I really liked the judge because he was comic relief till he got tested, and then he got serious, and he was really effective. I thought. Now the music. There was one song in this film which I was really surprised. And I will say that it was well done because it's when Akshay comes back to the village after the riots, and he's walking through all the carnage, and there is a somber song playing in the background. But other than that, there was no production numbers, nothing. And incidental music was fine. You know how I feel about this. If it doesn't help, it doesn't hurt. It's a three, so I gave it a three. Now, as far as, and this is so appropriate, my final verdict on this film. I gave the film a three. I liked it. I thought some of it was a little unbelievable. Some of the courtroom shenanigans were kind of unbelievable, but they're likable characters. Uh, you knew they were going to win. You wanted them to win. But I was also very surprised by some of the more emotional stuff they did in the film. I wasn't expecting that. But I liked it, and I like a good courtroom drama. I do. Excuse me. This really wasn't a drama, but I like courtroom films. Um, I'm a big fan of those. So that's what I think about Jolly LLB, and I am. And let me ask you guys, because I've seen two, which I liked, and I've seen three, which I liked. Is one worth me watching? I know it's an introduction of these characters, but is it worth watching? And how does it compare to these two? And is it based on a real story? Because I know within this film they reference the first two movies. The second one I definitely got because I knew what that case was about, the hit and run. But the first one I really didn't get because I haven't watched it. But is it worth watching? I don't know. You tell me. But that's it. Now, let me give you, in addition to my verdict, my recommendation. Okay, so I'm going to give you, and I'm gonna go with a courtroom movie that is a comedy with some serious overtones, much like this film, and it might be a little out of the box thinking, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. I'm going to give you 1992's My Cousin Vinny with Joe Pesci, Marissa Tomei. Uh, Let me see. It's directed by Jonathan Lynn. Ralph Macchio's in it. Fred Gwynn, who plays the judge, much like the judge in this film. Austin Pendleton. Great cast, great cast. But just a funny Joe Pesci, after doing so many serious, hardcore R-rated roles, does a really nice job in this film. And he reminds me of these jolly lawyers. A very you're rooting for him. But the funny thing about the film, they interviewed some lawyers in the U.S. who took the bar, and they asked what courtroom movies or lawyer movies do you think show most realistically how trials actually work? And a big chunk of them said this film Because if you watch this film, forgetting all the comedy and all the funny stuff, which is hilarious. Marissa Tomei won Best Supporting Actress in this. What is it? Vida. What was her name? Whatever it was, she was great. And her scene with Joe Pesci when she's explaining about the car, she's an expert, and the other lawyers kind of questioning her, trying to trip her up, and it's a great scene, very funny scene. But you see the minor details of going to court, what you got to do, how you got to prepare, what you got to know. But it's just, and on top of that, it's a funny movie. Very funny movie. And you know what the outcome's going to be, right? You know it, but it doesn't take away from the journey to get there. Now, you want a few other suggestions? The Verdict with Paul Newman is an incredible, much darker in tone movie, but fantastic. There's another one, The Cane Mutiny with Humphrey Bogart. Another courtroom drama that when it comes on, I watch it all the time. Excellent. But my recommendation this time, My Cousin Vinny, because I think it's the most like this film. So let me know what you think if you've seen My Cousin Vinny. The Two Utes. The what? What? You said Ute. What's a Ute? Oh, I'm sorry. The Two Youths. If you haven't seen the movie, watch it. You'll know what that all means, okay? All right. So I'm going to ask you one more time. I want you to pass judgment on the channel. So passing judgment by subscribing, hitting the notification button, hitting the like button, and more importantly, share. Sharing is caring. Sharing is Shah Rukh Khan. I'm doing Shah Rukh Khan now. Sharing is caring. All right? So that's it. We'll talk to you soon on John Talks Indian Cinema with a movie review, a trailer reaction, a song reaction, Shah Rukh Khan impressions, or something else. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will talk to you soon.
What was that word?
What word?
To what?
What?
Did you say utes?
Yeah, two Utes.
What is a ute?
Oh, excuse me, Your Honor. Two youths.